All right, what's up, everybody? It's Kyle with another episode of Hillsborough 100 and Real. I have my friend Nicole with us this morning, Nicole Piazza, and thanks for being with me, Nicole.
Hey, I'm happy to be here.
So
Glad
this
we-
is something we've been talking about doing for a little while, me and Nicole, and finally we made it happen. So before we get into all the cool stuff you guys have going on right now, let's start back from the beginning. So just tell everybody kind of where you grew up, what your upbringing was like going through school and whatnot. Did you play any sports? And then I'll be branching off based on that type of stuff.
Cool. Feel free to interrupt me because I could probably chat for an hour on that.
Got
Once you get into your 40s, you're like, wow, there's a lot of years of stuff that's happened.
a lot of experience, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I'm from Hunterdon County, born and raised in Flemington, left, came back. Good place to raise a family, so I'm happy to be here. My family's here, which, kind of keeps you close to your roots. And definitely an athlete. I was a runner all through high school, college, swimmer, dance, kind of did a little bit of everything and have continued that, sort of shifted into more of a yoga type of slower, lower impact movements, but continuing to move my body as much as possible. And I studied nutrition, which was inspired by my running, learning how to fuel my body, and fueling efficiency was what triggered my interest in nutrition. And I studied at the University of Vermont for undergraduate and got a double bachelor's in nutrition and dietetics, and then went to West Virginia University, big change, and studied for graduate school. So I got my master's in nutrition and nutritional biochemistry, and became a dietitian, got my certification. And from there, I've done a lot of work in the food industry and labeling and food product development. And somehow now it's kind of gotten me in this, I guess we'll get to where I am today.
Yeah, what you're doing now. So before we get into that, did you go to Hunter and Central?
I did.
Yeah. So you went to Hunter and Central.
For a woman, graduated in 98.
98. Okay, I graduated. I was 99 from Hillsborough.
Yeah,
Uh, that's pretty cool. So running was your main sport,
definitely.
right? And did you do that in college?
I did in the beginning, and then skiing got a hold of me.
Okay, well, yeah,
I was a ski instructor while I was up in Vermont, and
that's cool.
yeah, spent a lot of time at the mountains, so it took away from my D1 running career.
Yeah. And even in we went to West Virginia last year. They got some good skiing in West Virginia too. I don't know if you skied out there at all.
I did a little bit. Yeah, it does they get snow there.
Yeah. Well, because we were in Davis, which is like, I think the elevation where we were was 4,000 feet or 3,200 feet. So you're already way up there. So that area in particular, I think gets a lot of snow. So, okay, you came out of college.
Yeah.
You got your master's, pretty much know everything about nutrition. So from there, what was your first career path after you got your master's at West Virginia?
So I've had a pretty windy, twisty, turny path, but where I am now makes sense as we're starting at the beginning. My graduate research was with chickens. Human nutrition, you can only do so much of studies on humans. You're not dissecting and able to control every single thing that a human does. So my research in graduate school was with organic poultry, and I worked on a farm. And in doing that, I was creating diets and formulating the feed. And this translates very closely to vitamin formulation and food production. So I worked in a vitamin plant, developing vitamins was my first. My first supplement I created was a calcium supplement. It's a chewable calcium supplement. I was working on different flavors. It was a really cool experience.
Yeah.
As fresh grad, actually seeing my product on the market that I created. And from there, I actually worked for a pie company, Marie Callender, pretty well-known frozen food distributor. And I used to formulate recipes, source ingredients, travel to different manufacturing plants, and start up production. So it was an interesting take on nutrition. I hadn't really intended in working in a clinical setting, but I wanted to use my skills. I just was using them in a different way. Regulatory labeling, actually working in the kitchen, testing products, using different ingredients, freezing them, seeing how they thaw, cooking them to different, variability, as well as starting up test batches of production. It was really cool experience. As a 24-year-old traveling out to California in a manufacturing plant by myself, creating foods, like it was cool. Not sustainable for a balanced life, relationships. It was a pretty intense experience, but that has really created a foundation for what I'm doing now and where I am. I took a sidetrack though. My mom had gotten sick and she had cancer. It was pretty serious. And I moved home.
You came back here.
I did. Yeah, it was like a no-brainer. It was pretty critical. And I moved home and took a year to just take care of my family. And she recovered. And it was a pretty amazing experience. But I cared for feeding my family, feeding my mother, and really spent a lot of time in the oncology cancer center and researching treatment for her, because it was a rather rare experience. And through that, as I was getting ready to go back to my food manufacturing nutrition experience, the oncology center actually offered me a job because I had been such an integral part of caring for my mother.
Huh.
And something I hadn't thought I would do. Oncology is pretty specific and takes, you have to have a special certification to practice oncology and nutrition. And I worked at the cancer center here locally at Hunterdon in oncology for a couple of years.
Based in like nutrition now?
Yeah, I was an oncology nutrition specialist. Yeah, helping, as you're going through cancer treatments, there's a lot of questions about diet or supplements or treating symptoms, managing your symptoms with food and nourishing your body post-treatment, what kind of diet leads to success, prevention. There was just, endless opportunities for the role of nutrition and helping patients go through treatment. It was, needless to say, it's a pretty intense experience when you're working closely with oncology patients. And someone like myself, I go all in, I get attached. I was definitely very involved. And so if you're going to do a good job at that job, oftentimes there's a certain shelf life that you can handle doing it. And I found after a couple of years that it was time for me to make a change. It was emotionally, it was challenging, but
Sure.
So I worked in gastroenterology and I specialized in digestive issues and food allergies. And that's something that it was a fantastic experience working with a gastroenterologist, working a lot with irritable bowel syndrome, reflux and gas, bloating, a lot of issues that people just deal with. And they think that's just a part of life.
Yeah, I think it's normal.
It's not normal. It's not normal. And dismissing it as normal is really, it's sad because you're uncomfortable, you're suffering. My own digestive issues kind of prompted me to explore this opportunity. There's a gastroenterology practice in Flemington. It was called Advanced Gastroenterology and Nutrition. It's still in practice. And I said to the gastroenterologist, hey, who's the nutrition? Do you have who's the nutrition in your practice? And he said, oh yeah, we don't really have one. I said, had you ever thought about it? And created this role for me. And it was a fantastic opportunity for finding clients that needed my help. And once I built the confidence, I actually started my own practice after that.
For that specific, for those issues, GI?
For nutrition, food allergies, gastroenterology is my specialty, as well as oncology. Those are my two close to my heart focuses. But it involves all types of nutrition. GI issues are almost everyone that's having nutrition issue has some sort of digestive concern or an food allergy or just intolerance or symptom of that type. And Nourish to Heal was born.
Okay, so that's the start of the business.
Yeah, which is the full circle.
Now, let me ask you before we go further than that, so Anthony, your husband, right? Had you already met him at this point?
Still don't know him.
Okay.
Once I started Nourish to Heal, actually, that was when I had met Anthony. We weren't dating yet, but I had met him when I started my practice. I was working on my own. I was partnering with a chiropractor in Clinton, Jody Dinnerman, and she gave me some office space. And then I finally branched out and started my own office. And at that time, I used to see clients in my husband, in his coffee shop. And I would go and see.
I didn't know that. Okay, so he had a coffee shop.
He owned a coffee shop, and I used to meet my clients there, and sit at one of his tables. And that's how we got to know each other.
Oh, so you're just randomly going there.
Mhm.
Okay. Okay. Where was the coffee shop? In Clinton, you said?
It's in Clinton. Yeah, it was the Riverside. It's a pretty popular coffee shop. It's now called the Stone Bean, but it's right on the by the river in our building where we had our restaurant, and fell in love there. There's a whole story about that building. 49 Main Street in Clinton.
49 Main Street.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
then, like you said, that's something that you guys own, that mall, that strip, right?
We do now. So
Very-
we went from just falling in love there and Anthony having his own business to eventually at one point we lived above the building, we
Okay.
bought the building, and yeah.
So when Anthony had the coffee shop, when you guys met, that was, did he own, well, he didn't own that unit, right? Like it was somebody else owned the whole
Yeah.
thing. Okay, so then you guys met. What year roughly?
That was 2012, maybe. Yeah.
Okay.
12.
2012.
Yeah.
So pre-kids,
Pre-kids,
obviously,
pre-family. Yeah.
all that stuff. And then, so you guys met and then talk about, okay, so then Nourish to Heal, what was you can talk about the initial stage of that.
So my nutrition practice was all about making peace with your relationship with food. A lot of digestive issues stem from anxiety and stress, whether it's created from our minds or from something we're putting into our body. So if inflammation is created, it's how do we reduce that? And that was something that I found didn't work for the medical model of working in the hospital system. My approach was more therapeutic and lifelong, not just about, hey, follow this diet and you're going to be fixed. It's more, how can we change your life? What's triggering you to eat the way you're eating? What's causing you to have these symptoms? What's going on behind the scenes? And, along with diet, it was a whole person approach.
Yeah.
That was something that you can't finish that in a half hour, and I found that certain clients that I was working with, it literally changed their entire lives. And starting this practice was pretty cool. Feeling like you see the impact that it has on one's entire life just by making some changes and creating just that balance with food, in harmony with eating. Whereas there's these constant battles and struggles and willpower and trying to figure out what to eat and not to eat, and anxiety around what's causing what problem. And, you get so disconnected, you don't even know what to eat anymore, or it's the terrible relationship with food. And it's not always just like we think eating disorder. These are just regular people that just have issues with food and have struggled with it for whatever reason their entire lives. And, that was something that I had a passion for helping, people make peace with food.
Sure. And how often would your clients see you?
It depended. Some clients that didn't take very many visits to help them shift that mindset. Others, maybe twice a week for a while, and, we would taper off, but, I was there for them depending on how much they needed. So
Yeah.
highly customized.
Yeah.
Like nutrition approach, to that person. Because I really believe that we're all made differently and we have different needs. And, there's some things that we can all pretty much agree on that are not food. And maybe shouldn't be consumed, they're food
Yeah.
products, but nourishing people with real food, it's just different things work better for different people.
Yeah.
Some variance in there.
Yeah. And it's that's why I always tell people food's a drug, it's medicine. And a lot of people, what you're doing, I mean, it's really neat what you did then, right? Because that and what you guys do now, but you're using it as a positive medicine. I think a lot of people aren't even aware when they're consuming it that it is a drug and it's going to have some type of impact on what's going on. So that's I'm very curious about that.
Well, you're eating it for a certain reason.
Yeah.
You're eating to feel good. You're eating to satisfy, your appetite. You're eating because you're tired. Whatever that reason is, you're eating something. So obviously, it's going to have some sort of impact on you. You know that it has an effect. I'm drinking coffee right now. I know full well I'm drinking that coffee, and that's a drug. It's having an impact on me. But not everyone
Well,
looks at it.
I think the average person doesn't even think about it like that.
No.
So that's neat, being a scientist in that realm, helping people figure that out. And now so that's 2012.
Yeah.
What Nourished to Heal at that point? What did it progress?
Happen. What happened in these next 10 years here?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I'm curious, like, what was the progression from that to like, when did you decide, okay, now we're going to go into the restaurant?
Yeah.
Like, what was?
So Anthony, my husband, which obviously, he was working in a coffee shop and opening a restaurant at the same time. So he opened a restaurant called the Riverview in Clinton, very popular restaurant, but it was very much standard kind of American fare. And throughout college and in my entire, as I was starting my own practice, waitressing was something I did on the side. It's been part of my blood since I was 16 as a supplemental position.
Yeah.
And I started working as Anthony and I started dating. He needed some help in the restaurant, so I started helping him. And it was a very busy time in the restaurant that we were working extremely hard, serving food that was good, but we were having our own food made in the back for us because we didn't eat anything on the menu. And we had this, Anthony was thinking about, I'm ready to just be done with this. I can't handle the stress of it. And I had an idea that I am sending my clients to different restaurants and telling them how to ask the right questions, to pick and pull from the menu to find something they can eat. I tell them, hey, you can go to this restaurant. If you ask them this, this, and this, I know they'll make that for you. Or if you go over to this place, I know you can order this off the menu, or we'd be looking at menus. So why don't we create a place for those people, for all those clients, that all these people that are looking for, real food and the food that we eat. Let's just create it. Let's see what happens. Why are we working? We can't work our asses off and do something that we're not passionate about. That's crazy. And the Clean Plate Kitchen was born. And that was our restaurant that we recently had closed for, we'll get to that part, but it was something that the community was nervous initially that we were, making this big change, and our food was organic and locally sourced, which it's shocking. But around that time, working with different farms to try and source ingredients, it was like I had to convince the farmers that they should sell to us. It just wasn't the way they were operating. I was super local, working with these different, everything, our meat, our produce, our coffee, you name it. We were trying to source it as local as we could. And now, it's kind of a buzzword. A lot of people are doing that, and they're realizing the importance of, local sustainability. But it was, for this area, unheard of. Our menu was gluten-free, but it wasn't gluten-free by adding in a lot of people think, oh, gluten-free pasta. This was just real food that has nutrient dense, and just wasn't a food product that was made from something that, we just omitted the gluten. And, we made it so that our dishes could be easily converted to allergy-friendly dishes for someone that couldn't have nuts, or you couldn't have dairy, or you're vegan, whatever it might be. We can easily navigate the menu. It was clear. So if you cared, you noticed. If you didn't care, you weren't bothered by it, you just got good food. We wouldn't miss a thing. So
Yeah.
it was pretty cool concept that initially there was a lot of pushback. They wanted burgers and pasta and sandwiches and all that. And then it took off and we were extremely busy. Within our first year, the New York Times had actually done an article on us, which was like unreal, the impact that had at the time.
How'd they find out?
Someone was dining with us and they were on our patio. We didn't even know. And this article came out and someone told me about it. I mean, there were pictures of us all. So it was a big,
Phenomenal.
yeah. I think that was the same week I found out I was pregnant.
Oh, is that right?
Because I had such bad morning sickness. I had to come in and figure out because we were busy as hell. It's crazy.
You had to work through it.
Yeah, that's what we do. So my nutrition practice was put on hold. Restaurant was booming, babies immediately. We were really, really busy. So I didn't have the time to really focus on my clients because I had so much going on in our just juggling what we were doing. And I just held on to Nourish to Heal as a name. So I'm like, I just know it's good. It's going to come back. Like I'm not letting it go. And as the pandemic has come and hopefully gone, things have changed and people's patterns have changed. And we had started doing some prepared meals. And we were donating a lot of meals to the hospital during the pandemic from our restaurant. We, had to shift gears. Obviously, we weren't doing in-person dining. And we were getting a lot of donations to donate food. Was born. And we started, selling our food as oh, did I lose you? Gotcha.
Part out, all good. So you were saying you were donating to the hospital during the pandemic. People were donating to you to donate, and then it cut out on me there for a second. So what were you saying there?
So then from that we found that our food did I tell that part now?
No.
Okay, so our food is really fresh. It's like vegetable heavy. When you take that and you put that hot meal into a takeout container and you bring it home and you heat it up, or when we were donating these meals, we're like, this just doesn't translate or showcase our food very well. So through that, we started using different cooking techniques and plating differently and finding that it was improving the quality of our product and that we were doing something that was really good. So we started our prepared meal service that we were doing. It was a takeout just for like survival during the pandemic and our restaurant being closed. And then it turned into this prepared meal service that we started creating and growing. Our restaurant was open during the summer, so we were doing both at the same time. But we're just calling it Feel Good Food at Home because the Clean Plate Kitchen is feel good food. So that was kind of just this, all right, let's just do it. Let's see what happens. And through that experience, we found that we were really doing something really special, is really good food. And it kind of got us back to thinking about our roots and what we wanted to be doing and sustainability and just how do we want to live our lives. And we're like, let's just kind of like when we started Clean Plate, let's just go all in and do this prepared meal service and see if we can expand it into something real. And Nourish to Heal came back.
Yeah, before we go more into that, I got questions on the
Probably.
the story. So when Anthony started the restaurant, at what point did he stop the coffee shop?
We were doing both at the same time. And then the restaurant just got too busy that we decided to get rid of the coffee shop and stop and unload that. So that was maybe 2014, maybe.
And was that somebody just took over the coffee shop or the lease was up? Like, how did you?
Yeah, the lease was up and we were just negotiating with a difficult landlord, trying to figure out how we were gonna we couldn't manage it. We didn't have enough employees. It was just very challenging to do both at the same time and do a good job. And we're like, let's just, really focus on what we're doing here with the restaurant.
Okay,
And as the restaurant was sustainable and that was enough, it was too much to do both. And around that time, that was when we started working on trying to buy the building where the restaurant was located.
okay,
And that was where the coffee shop was, and there's a bunch of other shops. So that was a big milestone for us in our personal, financial,
sure.
a leap of faith, and also, something that was a big just step,
Yeah.
huge.
Now, how about, now at that time, Anthony was a police officer, correct?
That was actually before we met.
Oh, that was before you met. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're done with that.
Anthony had a whole life of stories also before we met.
Okay. That's cool. So that's before, because I was gonna say, how is he doing this? How are you guys doing this? But okay, so that makes more sense. But now, when
Yeah.
you guys transitioned from Clean Plate, when you transitioned to food offering,
Mhm.
talk about that period. Like, was that okay, you guys were ready to do it, and then one day the clients came in and everything was different, or was it like, talk about that transition from,
So the restaurant was really busy. It was super stressful. We were all teed up for like a fantastic year in 2020. Anthony and I actually had put ourselves through culinary school also.
oh, cool.
Not on the side. Yeah, we were going into the city and somehow managed to finish culinary school right at
Wow.
2020. The week the pandemic, like the world shut down, that was the week we were finishing school. We're like, this is going to be our best year yet at Clean Plate. We're ready to go. And, shit hit the fan and things got crazy, especially in our industry. And, well, I guess a lot of industries, but we just were trying to figure out how to survive at that point. And that was where we started doing these prepared meals. It evolved out of the donations and trying to build a takeout business. And, we started evaluating our life. We looked at everyone around us were literally complaining because they were at home and they were stuck at home, and we were working harder than we've ever had. I wasn't even seeing my kids. Like, I was breastfeeding at the time and it literally like stopped because of the stress. I wasn't even around my daughter from working so much. And it was just such a contrast to every other person we knew that were like, this seems like an unacceptable way of life. And, the business was there to continue the Clean Plate, but we knew we needed to find a way out, find a way to continue doing the parts that we love of the business
That's awesome. Yeah.
and maintain a life. We have two small girls, them, Zinnia and Tallulah.
Yep.
They're now 6 and almost 4. And we missed a lot of time from working. So we had a very successful restaurant, but we had no balance. And
Price. Yeah.
my whole shtick is about creating balance. Like that was what Nourish to Heal was created from. That was why we changed our food model. That's just, everything has been about sustainability and balance. We realized we had a business that was just not balanced or sustainable for our family.
Yeah.
As the tides changed for this, everyone's kind of doing different things. We saw that as an opportunity of maybe it's time for us to do a different thing. And yeah, that's kind of how we got into this prepared meals and it sort of just happened. It happened by us realizing we were creating something really good, and we were bringing the food home for ourselves, and that's all we were eating, with these meals that we were plating and bringing them home. And we were constantly making changes to improve them. And we're like, this is actually getting pretty good. We're getting good at this. We maybe we have something here. So we were getting a lot of customers that were ordering from us regularly. Even while the patio season was open, when the restaurant opened back up, we were still having a pretty steady stream of customers. And we're like, we can do better at this. If there's this much of a need for or a demand for what we're doing, like, I think we're on to something. There's no one locally providing foods of this quality. Doesn't exist. and there's a lot of busy people that don't have time to cook. They don't want to cook. They're sick of cooking. They don't have ideas for cooking, like whatever it might be, that nourishing their bodies for whatever stage of their life. It's, kind of cool that we're creating that product.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Now, I got a bunch more questions on that, but I want to make sure I don't forget. When you switch the menu because I want to make sure we hit all parts of the business. When you switch the menu from
Mhm,
like what you were saying, the stuff you and Anthony were making in the back, and you
mhm.
realized that there was a need, what was that transition period like, switching the menu, as far as like you said, there's some pushback at the beginning? Was that you guys had the idea and then the next time people came in, it was switched, or was it like we're switching to this? Like, how did you guys navigate that?
We finished out a summer season in the fall, and we launched it in February. So we warned customers. We closed for a month and did like a complete makeover, and like, it was something that we were letting people know, and that's why we knew there was pushback. Because a lot of people were like, "Oh no, you're not gonna have like this peanut butter bacon burger that I love," and like all these other things. Because we had a very successful business, but there was the Riverview in the summer on a beautiful day. But there was nothing to motivate customers to want to go there in the winter. You have to kind of walk to find the place. In the summer, when you find this, you're like, oh wow, this is an oasis along the river. But on a rainy day or a cold day or snowy day, you have to go there for a reason. You have to really be driven to go there. And the people that are driven to go there are the ones that maybe they can't find what we're offering anywhere else. So shifting was like, our customers are committed to us. They're
Mm,
faithful, they're loyal, they appreciate what we're doing. They know it's different, and it's clean, and they trust us. And that's something that helped us to have a business that wasn't just a summer business. It was, a full year round
yeah.
business.
So then that makes perfect sense. And that's I give you guys a lot of credit, because people, I think it's, especially when they start a business, sometimes people get stuck in what they're doing, even when they realize, man, I should have done that differently. And they
Yeah.
never change, because it's hard to do that. It's
Yeah.
hard to, switch gears.
That's one thing we're good at.
Fantastic.
We find that if something's not working, let's just take a chance and see if we can figure out a better way to do it. And what we're doing now is something that helped us to break the rules of the restaurant business. We still want to work in food. We still, we care about what we're doing. We want to offer the same kinds of foods that we had in the past. There's parts of the business that just, the monotony of the day in, day out, it just
Yeah.
work for us. So we're like, let's just try it. We'll see what
Yeah.
happens. We have a dream, and we'll see if we can do it.
So you guys realized that in early days of COVID,
Mhm.
COVID craziness. Because I remember talking with Anthony at your house. He said you guys had, and this is what I guess what he meant. You guys were already had this. You were planning this.
Mhm.
Planning this. So when did you? Because I don't think it's that long ago, right? When did you officially close Clean Plate Kitchen?
October. So
October. That's
and
right. I remember talking to you about that.
to the end of patio season, we had a tenant lined up. So, it was something that we were working on behind the scenes. I mean, it was one of those, the stars had to align on a lot of levels to make this happen. But we found, someone that was interested in renting a restaurant in our space. Since we own the building, we had to make that happen.
Yeah.
We found a new building right in town that we were, fortunate to be able to purchase and put in a brand new kitchen. And we rebranded.
It's separate than
Yeah,
the other place that you guys have.
we're still in town, but it's at 10 Lee Street, so it's right across town. But we completely gutted it, put in a new kitchen, rebranded, launched a new website. And since the end of October. Like and we have a new business now. So it's
Business, and I know it's doing really well. So talk about like the initial customer base. Was it a lot of your people that came over?
yeah. So
Yeah.
we had a pretty feel good food at home, which is what we were calling this prepared meal service that we were doing off of the Clean Plate. And we had a pretty steady, it was a steady ordering. Like we kind of knew what to expect. There were people that were ordering. It was enough that we could see that this was something that had the opportunity for growth. We were promoting it, but not really. We weren't, it just kind of happened that these people that were ordering were really committed to us. And as we've transitioned to Nourish to Heal, we've now have 2 delivery days. So we're doubling the amount that we could do, our volumes. And, we're still working to grow that number, but it's been growing every week. So we're going in the right direction. And we got rid of our subscriptions. A lot of people are like, oh, you should do subscriptions. It kind of locks people in. And in theory, yeah, that makes sense. But I hate being locked into a subscription.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, I forgot to cancel it. I don't want anyone to ever get our food and feel like, oh, I didn't really want that this week, So that was, there were some changes we made that weren't just to try and make more money. It's about how does this something that we can really grow and be better for the customer as well as for us.
Yeah. It is. Again, it's refreshing because you don't see that a lot in business. People are just such in a survival mode most of the time that they're not thinking about, their values and what's going to make fit the life that they want and be best for the customer. So let's talk now about, before we go into how it works, like if I want to order food from you guys, talk about like the structure of the business. So it's you and Anthony in there.
Mm-hmm.
So are you guys doing all the cooking? Like, tell me about the structure.
We divide and conquer, Anthony and I, that's kind of, we work best when we're working together, but accomplishing different things.
Sure.
If you put both of us in the kitchen, I'm not sure if that would work the best at the same time. So I have become an IT person somehow during this. I didn't even own a computer prior to the pandemic, and now I have an online business, which is insane to me. It's been a steep learning curve, and I'm definitely trying to find college students and other, I'm working with a branding company to try and help me with increasing my skills, but I feel like I've come a long way. It's just such a different thing. Before we were, we're small town celebrities, like people know who we are in town, and we had this following, and I sort of thought we would flip the switch and this would just magically happen. People know where we are, but on the internet, we're kind of a nobody. No one knows who we are. They can't even find us. I don't even know what SEO is. So that's what it's been taking up a lot of my time. But now that we've got the site up and going, I'm getting to get creative again. I feel like when I start thinking about food and recipes, that's when I know I'm in my sweet spot of life. I have a good balance because it's kind of, like I was talking about, food is one of those things that we eat for different reasons. And for me, if I'm stressed and I can't think of a good recipe for the life of me. And now I'm inspired again. We're starting to create new dishes every week. We're putting out new things. It's fun again, so I create the recipes and then Anthony makes them happen. So we've got about 7 people in our kitchen. We've got 5 or 6 in the front of the house to help with packing orders. We've got 6 drivers going out, for deliveries. So there's a lot of people behind the scenes that are, making this happen. And we had a good team at the Clean Plate, and a lot of them, everyone we have stayed with us. So these are people that have been with us for years. Some of them have been with us since the beginning of the Riverview. So 13 years, that first restaurant. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you guys, once you launch it, so now is it what's your radius that okay, we're in Hillsborough, but we're on this side of Hillsborough.
We go to Hillsborough.
Okay, so that's what I wanted to get at. What's your area?
So right now it's all of Hunterdon County, most of Somerset. Actually, we're going all the way up to Gillette.
So you're going
yeah. We got an order we're going out to Gillette today. I was like, oh, I forgot I added that zip code in. And then we do a big chunk of Warren County too. And we go to Easton. So we've got a pretty big area that we're covering.
And people now are finding out, so through, what is it, word of mouth or marketing? How is the word continuing to spread?
I think word of mouth is our biggest, that's our biggest way that people are finding out about it, or they knew about the Clean Plate and they want our food, and as the warmer weather is coming and maybe some people weren't following us on social media or didn't know that the patio was closed. And they're like, wait, I still want that food. So that's been a big way that we've been finding people as well.
And then when people, because I'm definitely gonna make sure we order some, I want to definitely support and try this out. When people want to, let's say I want to order for next week. How does that, what's the process people have to go through? They go on the website and see what there is for that week, or?
Yeah, so we change our menus every week. We launch a new menu every Friday. So we deliver on Friday and Tuesday. We've got a new
Okay.
menu. So it's the same menu for Friday and Tuesday. So if you miss the Friday, you don't have to order for, both.
Gotcha.
But so if you go onto our website and you click on the date, you pick what day you want to get your delivery. So I've got about 3 weeks out of menus. So you can go ahead, click on Tuesday if you want, check out the menu, add your items to your cart, and choose delivery or pickup. That's it on their end. Meal prep's done.
And if it's, if you wanted to do for the family, is it you just order more quantity of it? Or is it like you have family size stuff too? Or like, how does that work?
So right now, we just have one option. That's a family meal option. It's where you can customize your dish and you can build like your own meal. So if you want, you can choose your protein, choose your base, choose your veggies, choose your sauce, 2 veggies actually, but you can pick and kind of build your own thing.
And that's for the family, that'll,
We call it a family meal.
Okay.
Some people use that for if they're meal prepping, because they can pick exactly what they want, like the market items. We have market sides of our veggies too, which work really well for families as a supplement to a meal. At our house, we take, there's 4 of us. We usually take a couple meals and we put it on plates because, we're eating dinner as a family. So we kind of split it up a little bit, but 2 or 3 meals usually is enough with maybe some veggies for all of us.
for the week,
Well, for a meal.
for the meal. Okay, so 2 or 3, I'm just trying to get a
Oh,
concept.
so our normal meals are individually portioned. So it's a generous single portion. And we've
Okay,
got about 13 different meals. And then we have a customized option where you can build your own meal. And then additionally, we have family meals that can be created or our market sides. And we've got a bunch of other, different things we're adding on. But our main focus has been initially it was on like just single serve, like what's a portion, what's a single, we don't call our food, it's not diet food, it's just real food. The nutrition details as far as like the calories is less important because it's just, if you eat
Yeah.
that, you're not going to gain weight. You're going to have adequate protein,
yeah,
we have adequate carb, but it's like high fiber and vegetables. So it's, just a satisfying portion that
right.
can be broken apart. We pull off the salmon cakes and we put them on the kids' plates and, we eat everything else, but add some
Yeah.
to their plates. And yeah, so they can be easily portioned out. If let's say for a family like your size, you would probably, and we have kids meals too, but you would probably look at a couple meals and say, hey, I want to try this and this. I bet Colt will eat this. Braxton will like this. Emmy, she'll just eat whatever scraps we have that we decide she may or may not try. And yeah, you'll see when you look at the menu.
Yeah, we're gonna try that. I'm gonna tell Devin for this coming week, or, whatever, this Monday coming up.
I hope you do.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
We
but I wanted to.
But I've always felt like nutrition doesn't have to be so serious.
Yeah,
So we have like playful names for our dishes and we try to have fun when we're making our meals.
Yeah.
Like it's not fine dining. It's definitely, we're using our culinary skills, but we try to keep it approachable and interesting to try something that maybe you haven't had. Some people haven't been exposed really to quinoa or kale or, roasted butternut squash with ginger. Like it's just something that maybe you wouldn't think to try, or, we try to keep it just fresh and interesting eating well. You're not missing the fat and,
no,
excess whatever, because it's just good food.
yeah, and I could tell everybody, I mean, we've had your guys' food before at your house and whatnot, and it's delicious. I don't know if those are regular menu items, but I know you guys know how to make a dish, and it's really, really good food. So it's pretty neat. Now, what if I wanted, just because I think other people might have these questions, like if I was doing an event for the gym and we had like 50
Coming
people.
soon. Coming soon.
Okay, that's what I'm gonna ask. So you guys will have that capability soon.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
parties or whatnot.
Yeah, we've really just, we have a tendency to kind of, like we did with the restaurants, just do too much.
Yeah,
And
yeah. I think
we're
it's
really
brilliant what you're
trying
doing.
this time to like, let's just like really hone in on our craft of what we're good at, like, and we have a market for it. In our next step, we're going to add more of like the family options, and also foods that don't have to be heated, maybe like more fresh. We have a couple salads and some dishes that don't have to be heated, but things that you could take for a picnic. Um,
Sure.
so that's kind of our next phase. So we're trying not, it's like holding in the reins. Like, how do I, so we're going to start doing parties and cooking classes and pop-up events and
Yeah, yeah.
catering. Like that's all stuff coming, but we're trying to just stay,
No,
just keep our heads down and, just do what we're doing well for
and I
now.
think like I said, as a business owner, I think that's so cool because you guys, you've been adaptable and then, but now you're focusing until you get it exactly how you want it before you add in. Because I know at the gyms we've done it, we're adding too many things because people tell you they want this, and that,
You know what? You're not doing a good job at anything.
No,
We do too, and that's always what we've done. We bite off too much because we can do it in theory, yes, but then we're not, we're losing our focus. So, Anthony and I are both like really just, we're committed to making sure that our family stays our priority.
that's
And
awesome.
we do a really good job at what we're doing. And just, sometimes we have to say no. Like, of course, I'd like to like financially, it would feel good to just have like a quick little this or that and extend ourselves in different
Yeah,
directions. But long term, it's not, gonna work for us,
yeah.
so we got to do this like one step at a time, get good at it.
How has it been since you guys have gone full into Nurse to Heal as far as your work-life balance?
Well, we're headed out of town. We're going to Lake George tomorrow.
Nice.
The first time I've been there in 4 years. And yeah, so there you go. It summarizes it. We got
Perfect.
great. Yeah, we're spending more family time. I'm able to be with the girls, which is really like our goal is that I can be with the girls more. I want to be home with them as much as possible. And like I said, we've missed a lot and trying to make up for it now. And it's
Yeah.
happening. We're not fully there yet. We're obviously working. We have a lot of work to do, but we can feel it happening and it's really exciting.
Yeah, and I think that people will get a lot out of this because I mean, you guys are very successful, and I think if people not necessarily do exactly what you, but success leaves clues to kind of see how you guys, and yeah, maybe you missed out on some of the stuff with the girls, but they're still young enough where most people don't realize that until the kids are in like college, and then there's nothing you can really do at that point.
I know. Well, and also the stress of it was affecting our health. It's, Anthony is like, oh, don't tell people that. Like, it makes it seem like we're weak. I'm like, no, it doesn't. I'm like, this is unacceptable. Like, I'm 42 and I have not even a 4-year-old. I need to be healthy and I need to be around for kids. And just because I eat healthy, that's not the only part,
Yeah,
So, making that change for me it's like a non-negotiable. Like we have to make this change because I want to have grandkids and I want to be able to run around with them and be there, like both of us. And I want my husband right there with me. So it's crazy when you focus and you really just like hone in on like that goal. It makes it easier to say no to the distractions, you know.
sure. Yeah,
Even
yeah,
having a social life, having friends. We haven't had friends. We do.
yeah,
All we did was work. We were working at night, working on weekends, working every day. Like it's just we we were successful in a business sense, but we were missing so much. And even, working together, we get to be together all the time, but we're always doing opposite things, like that quality time was missing. And it's just, I feel like we're like in a honeymoon phase again. Like it's pretty cool to actually like have dinner with your husband and your children. Like it's this
yeah,
little thing that for us is like a really big game changer. So
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, so cool. What before we tell people how they can find out and get going with you guys, do you if I asked you like what your favorite book was, one of your favorite books, what would come to mind?
Power of Now.
Oh, good. Eckhart Tolle, huh?
Oh,
That's a great one.
absolutely. Do you know how many copies of that book I've bought for other people?
Handed them out,
And
yeah.
for a while, I forgot, you get caught up into work, into the whirlwind of everything, and you forget. It's like, I
I gotta
gotta
read that one again.
pause, focus on now, and enjoy this. Like, there's no problem with right now. Look at
Yeah,
this. We're sitting chatting here on a computer, which is crazy,
yeah,
in the comfort of my home, and
yeah,
life's good. You just forget sometimes.
yeah. Yeah, you look at two people looking all everywhere but here, but now. And if you were to go back and give the 20-year-old Nicole some advice, what would you tell her?
Just hang tight. Hang tight. It's gonna be quite a ride. I look at, with my husband Anthony, and I met each other later in life, and we look at, oh man, if we'd only met sooner, or I wish we were younger. Every time we look at that, we go, every experience both of us had was exactly what we needed to get to exactly where we are. And, yeah, we wish we weren't starting over with our business in our early 40s, wish this happened, 10 years earlier. There's no other scenario that would have
Yeah,
brought us to where we are right now at this time. And it's perfect the way it is, the way it's unfolding. So just
like,
got to hang tight for the ride.
yeah, that's great advice and great wisdom that you both have, realizing that this is the way it was supposed to be.
Yeah.
Really, really good. I mean, like I said, I'm not just saying, it's very inspiring.
Well,
It's very inspiring. And so I'm sure other people are going to find it to be the same. Now, if they want to, people that listen to this as we push it out, like if they want to get in touch with you guys,
oh, yeah.
give us all that info because I'll put it in the show notes.
My email is the best way, Nicole@nourishtoheal.com. And I think I have it all over the place on the website and our Facebook page, Nourish to Heal. Everything's kind of branded at just Nourish to Heal. And
Okay.
I'm happy to help anyone that has dietary needs, specific requests. Maybe they just have a preference of something they don't like, or they prefer something different. We're happy to make changes. We customize. Maybe they can't make it for a Tuesday pickup because they're outside our area, but they can come Wednesday. Like we can bend and flex quite a bit. So it's kind of a high touch, even though we're online business, we're very high touch. I place orders for customers that, if they're older, or maybe they have trouble with, the technology piece of it, because that's what we're here for. So.
Excellent. And the website is just nourishtoheal.com.
Mhm.
And Facebook and Instagram's Nourish to Heal.
Yep.
Great. So I'll put all that out. I'm sure a lot of me and you keep talking. I'm sure a lot of our clients at the gyms.
Yeah.
It's good to know.
Well, you have a coupon code for your clients, Newell Strength.
They
Just
just
one word,
put that right in the
Newell Strength, 10% off.
perfect,
Use that code.
perfect. So I will blast that out to our tribe and everything. And yeah, we're looking forward to doing some stuff with you guys, and I'm personally looking forward to trying it out. And like I said, you guys are great people. You're inspiring. I know the food is going to be excellent. I have no question about that.
Well,
And healthy. So that's really cool. So let me bring this to a close. Okay.
all right, let's do it.
Give me one sec.